Good afternoon. Today, I have a very special guest with me. It's one of our best former clients, Martin Meredith. Martin, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Wonderful. So it's been a while. It's been a little. Do you know how long it's been since your case closed, approximately?
No.
I didn't either.
Over a year.
Yeah, we are about 10 days short of a year and a half. That surprised me. I was thinking about a year or 9 months, but it's been a year and a half now. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
To sort of set the scene, you were in a very serious vehicular wreck, a two-vehicle collision in September of 2018.
Yes.
Is that what you remember?
Mm-hmm.
All right. You were in a pretty tiny vehicle. It was some sort of Kia. What kind was it?
It was a Sportage, but one of the original Sportage.
Okay. Yeah, it was like a 2001, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you were headed one way and happened at an intersection. Do you remember?
Yeah, it's kind of strange because it was out in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just a little different than the city. But it was a service road from the exit from the interstate. And I was on the road that would overpass the interstate. And so coming off the exit, there's a stop sign.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I approached there was a truck, and he was stopped at the stop sign, and everything looked like it was clear, and I didn't have a stop sign. So, and as I approached, he simply started to go, and I keep waiting for him to recognize that I'm there. It was dark, early in the morning, 5:30 a.m., and he fails to. We all start to go and make mistakes and correct ourselves. I kept waiting for it, and it never happened. And I was already on my brakes, but it didn't matter.
It's too late.
Yeah. I think the speed limit on there is 55, and I was doing about 45, maybe 40, but it didn't matter.
Yeah, it was a big collision. This wasn't just a truck. This was a big truck.
It's a big truck.
Yeah, it was it was like a 3,500 Dodge. So I remember looking it up at the time, and it was 8,000 plus pounds of curb weight. So, not like a concrete truck, but it was a big truck. It also had a tank thing on the back, and as constructed, it may have been 9,000 or 10,000 pounds. It was a lot of force, and it was a T-bone type collision. And the next thing you know, number one, you had a serious leg injury, true?
Yeah, apparently.
And you had to get out of the vehicle.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of any of the damage from impact or trauma. So I didn't feel my leg or anything.
Didn't feel it?
No.
For most people who haven't had something really bad happen in terms of a break, that's hard to believe, but I hear that a lot. We don't emphasize that part in the demand, mind
right.
you.
Well,
we felt no pain. No, we don't emphasize that part.
No, there was
pain at some point.
There was force. It's one of the most difficult things to describe. For when I deduced what was inevitable, well, I closed my eyes. I decided to go somewhere else.
Sure.
And that's where I was. And I really don't know exactly what happened. But I never lost consciousness.
Well, your vehicle gets engulfed in flames.
Yeah.
And here you are with a big leg injury, and had things been slightly different in the wrong direction, you could have been burned alive. It just could have been awful.
Yeah. Well, there were a couple of fortunate things. During the impact, the driver's side door shattered, the window, and the flatbed aspect of the truck matched my window.
Mm-hmm.
But the truck was up against, so I couldn't open the door.
Mm-hmm.
But it was at the same level as the window. So it was just a matter of climbing through the window onto the back of the truck.
With a badly broken leg.
Yeah. But I didn't really use my leg until I tried to walk. And that's when I learned that something was terribly wrong.
Yeah. Did you, at one time, because, again, we're almost a year and a half after the case is totally over, and we're, working on 4 years, 3.5 after the crash. But I remember during the case, you would get pretty darn emotional, rightly. The thought of any photos or just anything. I mean, that's totally normal. Have you ever seen the photo of your vehicle engulfed?
Mm-mm.
Okay. I'm going to show the camera. Do you want to see it, or do you want to not want to see it?
You can email me to them.
Email?
I don't need to see them now.
Yeah, I got you. Okay. So, I mean, you're not seeing it. I'm looking at it. The audience is seeing it. And that vehicle is fully engulfed in flames. You managed to get out of the vehicle with a badly broken leg, and then you're presumably walking away, and then you obviously can tell something's badly wrong.
Well, from the flatbed of the truck, I'm able to swing my legs around and bear weight, and I'm still very numb. Everything's numb, and I'm having a real hard time just focusing, and But yeah, anyway, so the next step, because the car is on fire, is to move away from the vehicle. And my first step was I stepped to my broke leg, my broke knee, and just collapsed. Like I didn't have a leg. It was very strange. And I guess in a way I didn't. But I was able to stand myself back up and try it again because it was completely, I didn't feel a thing.
Right.
And luckily, a good Samaritan came. But before he came, I was about maybe 4 feet on my knees and elbows. Now, I mean, I'm just on the, just army crawling on one of those knees didn't work. So knee and elbow to the other side of the road. Get out of the road, kind of thing. We were, kind of in the middle of that intersection.
Yeah.
Or I had to cross it to get to the other side, away from flaming vehicles. And then, somebody helped.
And this happened out in Kaufman, as I recall. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I remember, of course, you couldn't drive or anything. I mean, I guess to reset, you had 2 surgeries. You had an open reduction, internal fixation of the right plateau fracture.
Mm-hmm.
And then subsequently there was a lot of stuff going on, but it was removal of the hardware in your right tibia, repair of the tibia. And then you had a big scar, and I know there was a scar revision surgery, but bottom line is you couldn't ride in a vehicle. You had to have your leg elevated. And I remember because of that, I had to come to your home to meet with you for the first time.
Yeah.
I remember that. I remember when I got there, I remember your mom was there, and I'm trying to think of who else was at your home. Who else was there?
My stepdad, Ben, was there.
Okay.
And I can't remember if my sister was there or not.
I can't remember, but it was, I mean, golly, I think the pain had definitely set in.
Well, through our association, you sent me to a brilliant surgeon. But prior to that, I only had Kaufman's best.
Mm-hmm.
And Kaufman doesn't have anything that really is the best. So my repair, what had previously been done was so inadequate. And I talked to Sean, Dr. Hayden, about how unsatisfied I am with this particular, and, do you see any indication that, somebody did something wrong or,
Yeah.
He said, no. And he tried to explain to me the parts I don't understand about surgery, but everything is correct. Everybody dials it incorrect, and it just heals the way it heals. And if that goes, because I was club-footed, and I had a weird gait,
For sure, yeah.
and things were clumsy, and nerve damage in the knee made stability difficult anyway. Somebody stumbling around anytime I tried to have any kind of finesse or any type of familiar movements. And they became very cumbersome, unfamiliar.
Yeah.
So that was very frustrating. But after Sean's first surgery and then the second surgery, because I had some kind of strange scare with infectious disease or something.
I remember.
But everything turned out okay.
Yeah.
It didn't require additional surgery, just a quick cleaning.
Yeah. I remember getting a call from their office and saying, hey, we got to watch out for this, and it was infection related. And that happens from time to time.
It does.
And
he brought in a really brilliant guy, and he cultured those things for 4 weeks. Yeah. Nothing grew. We were good.
And, one of the things that I think a lot of people who haven't been clients yet, who haven't had to go through something like this, is how your injury, it's not just your injuries, but you couldn't go to work. Like, you have to show up to work to get a paycheck. You couldn't show up. And I remember us talking about it, and you're like, what do we do? Because I've got to be able to get the surgeries. I've got to be able to do the therapy. I can't go into work, and we're having to, figure that stuff out on the fly. And there's really no easy answers.
There isn't. That was tough. But we worked through it. And to be honest, I didn't have any control. I handed it over to you guys.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't get a clear answer of how it was going to work, because no one really knew. But did it work? Yes, and it worked out great.
Yeah, but that's where is what I tell people is I'm okay if we say no to cases. Like, if we don't get the right feeling from a potential client, I tell our team, say no, because there's such a trust bond that you have to have with your client, because truthfully, there may be circumstances that your client may say, hey, I need you, Jason, Burress Law, I need you to pay for a $50,000 surgery. We did that a few weeks ago. I need you to float me my wages that I can't earn while I'm doing this. There's things like that happen. They're real life things. And, of course, the insurance company, we can't say which one, of course, but I mean, the insurance companies in all these cases, generally speaking, I mean, they love these problems because, most often firms can't do those types of things, and it depresses the value of the cases. But to do those things, number one, I think you have to be a well-run firm, but two, you have to have a great relationship with your client. You have to have a trust there to be able to do those things. And obviously we had that with you. We just mechanically had to figure out, how does this work? How long does it work? And all those things.
Right.
And I just remember you being so transparent, and you didn't always have the answers. Neither did I.
I put my heels in the ground, but luckily you didn't have to deal with me. You're brilliant legal assistant.
That's the truth.
And
is she great?
Yes, she is. And
Trisha Miller is her name, and she's.
But there was one time I'm like, no, Trish, that don't work that way. I'm not doing that. All right, hold on. Yeah, and then you get on. Look, it's like, Martin, whether we pay this on this side of it or the other side, it's the same fee. Yeah, it'll all get done.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
and that was it.
Oh man,
I removed my heels, but yeah,
she's.
Or I missed recovery therapy, a scheduled recovery. Oh man, she was all over me. I'm like,
She's
okay, guys.
nobody's more on top of it. And like I tell people, if you've got a good team, it'll make you look good. And if you don't have a good team, it'll turn a great lawyer into an average lawyer in a hurry. It really will. But no, she did a great job. So we had the injuries, like the physical injuries, but the other thing that people don't always understand is the emotional component to this. And in a personal injury case, it's called mental anguish. But
yeah, and that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, like a lot of our clients, when they have a big issue like this, it's the physical stuff is big, but the emotional part of it, like number one, it can manifest itself in the way of anxiety, like to drive a car for the first time, to ride in a car, those types of things can be overwhelming. And just the anxiety, the anguish associated with, I left my house that morning and I was my perfectly normal self. And then 10 minutes later, my whole life changed.
Yeah. And the injustice of it.
Yeah.
Because you didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
But you're paying a tremendous price.
A tremendous price.
And it's paid.
Yeah.
And so now all you're trying to do is put your pieces back together. And you don't even know why it got shattered.
Yeah. That's right.
And you want to talk about rocking your foundation. You turned out real quick what seems like rock turns into sand. Real quick.
For sure. The one thing that I tell people, and I can't get into it too much because it's ongoing, but my family's got a case right now. Everybody but me was in the vehicle, and it was a big case, and it really hits home when you deal with it personally. But I always tell clients, even before this happened, that we're going to go out and try to get very full value for your case, and that typically is measured against the verdicts that we see in whatever county the case either resides in or would be filed in. It's measured against verdicts, and it's not measured, of course, in terms of what would I exchange in terms of compensation for these injuries, because nobody would, right? There's no way you're going to get me to say, I'll take $1 million, $2 million, $500,000, whatever it is. There's no amount of money that I'm going to take on the front end in exchange for my body hurting, right? And I think most of us are that way, but you can't look at it in those terms. You have to look at it in terms of risk assessment, in terms of what are juries awarding for these types of injuries, for these types of claimants. And then from that point, you have to try to go exceed those averages. And so that's, we always talk about that, because you have to have the right frame of mind coming in, or I think any person who's injured would always be miserable and never be able to make peace with it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us about your anxiety, like what an injury like this does on the mental part of it as you're coping with your new you.
Well, at the time and during healing, I had hope. I had hope, and through the surgeries, I had hope, and the hope kind of consisted of just trying to be back to normal.
Mm-hmm.
You just want to go back to normal. And, but yeah, it's a little crushing when you find out that, any activity beyond pretty much what is absolutely necessary, like walking, or I asked Dr. Hayden, what height would my warranty as far as if I jumped off with my knee, and he said, whatever the height of an average step is, any taller than that, and I wouldn't recommend it.
In other words, what your leg could withstand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, okay, well, what about sprinting or running? And he's like, anytime that both of your legs come off the ground for any amount of time and one will bear the weight, I can't recommend it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't run, and I can walk.
Mm-hmm. How does it feel now? Because now you're removed from this several years. How do you feel physically?
Actually, I'm surprised at how well it feels after it healed. But again, that was Sean Hayden, Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Sean Hayden. Because I have the before and after, from the first repair to
mm-hmm.
his, and the correcting of the club foot and the gait and all of it. And
mm-hmm.
And it does not feel like I have those limitations. And maybe I don't. He won't say.
Mm-hmm.
He just says it's not a perfect repair, so I can't recommend it.
Mm-hmm. So you've chosen to be pretty conservative with what you allow yourself to do.
I'm a little too old to be recovering. It seems to take longer than I remember it.
Okay. Are you still with the same company now that you were with then? Are you still
mm-hmm.
doing the same? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You still live in same area?
Mm-hmm.
So you still make quite a commute?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are always curious about this. So before the crash and during the crash, you had a pretty small vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
What did you ultimately replace that vehicle with? What type of vehicle?
It was my first choice, and it was a Kia Forte. It gets 48 miles to the gallon.
But still not very big.
It's a four-door sedan, but no, it's not very big.
No, okay.
It is equivalent to like a Honda Civic.
Okay. I thought you might get like a Hummer or some such. Or a tank, a Sherman tank.
For the first time in my life, I have those choices, sir.
Yeah.
But I do not have those desires.
Okay. All right.
No, gas mileage. That's my desire right now.
And what keeps you in your area of town, Kaufman, I guess? What keeps you there?
Well, the property is my mom's,
mm-hmm.
and they bought it. It was raw,
mm-hmm.
and they have had it for 20 years, 25 years.
It's a beautiful place.
And she's still there, but she's 80 now. So I'm there because they have to do the upkeep.
How many acres is it?
It's about 2.5.
Okay, yeah, it was a bigger property.
It looks big, but it's got a lot of trees.
Yeah, it
stuff.
does.
Yeah, and originally her brother and sister lived on either side of her, and they didn't kind of identify the property line, so it looks huge. But hers is about 2.5 acres.
We're not going to get into numbers. I certainly don't want to do that. But what I would like to address is we did a structured settlement in your case,
mm-hmm.
and essentially what it is are annuities that pay out proceeds over time.
Mm-hmm.
And some clients are interested in this, and some clients aren't. If I think it makes sense, I will. I always give the positives and negatives, but if I think it's a good idea, I'll tell the client. And if I don't, I'll tell them I don't think it's a good idea. Looking back, I'm curious, are you a fan of the way it was structured, or have any comments about it?
Well, I actually pretty much was able to tailor it however I wanted, mm-hmm. but I got quite a few examples of how I could tailor it. And so,
in other words, we gave you, through the structured settlement broker, a lot of different choices to mm-hmm. evaluate.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And
they always want to send 3 over. And I'm like, don't send 3. Do 7 or 8. Like, give us a lot of options, right?
Yeah. And so I opted to not do an immediate payout so that it could earn additional. And so that was really the sort of the goal. And then, of course, the payout would accommodate that. And so it's a monthly income as well as a payout every 5 years, large payout. And so, yeah, I'm quite satisfied with it.
Well, and for me, somebody that comes in and they say, look, I'm a wealth preservation attorney, or I'm a CPA. That's fine. I'm not going to try to, as well as I do or better than I do, and I'm not going to try to sell you. But I got to tell you, I mean, with these bigger verdicts and settlements, I just can't tell you the number of times that a client tells me, I'm going to be careful with this. I'm going to make this last longer. I have one example. Of course, I won't give any names, but same type of deal, almost identical in many different respects. But, it's a leg thing. And it was a right leg. And I'm like, no, it wasn't. It was a left leg because it was a clutch issue. And I gave some suggestions on vehicles and, do pre-owned. And this was, of course, this was a couple of years ago, before pre-owned vehicles now, have increased in value to incredible, it's before that. But this is a really funny story because I get promised, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to spend no more than, in what I think it was 20,000 or so. And this is what I'm going to do. And I had several not owners, but leaders of local dealerships who personally met with this client that we had just resolved this case. And anyway, I get a call, and I was on the lake, and I get a call from my buddy Dan, and he said, hey, I've got so-and-so here. Did you know that he was about to buy a souped up Mustang that is it's a 6-speed, and he's, it's like a standard, and he's got, he's his whole leg thing. And I was like, no, and so it's like, it's a lot of money. Like this type of thing happens where, a couple years down the road, we check in. And you just, what I hear over and over is, man, I wish that I would have saved it. I wish it's almost like, it's not quite as bad, but it's almost like, I kind of went to the boats, I bet it on black, and danged if it didn't come up red.
I'm telling you, that used NASA space equipment was a good deal.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like, if you've ever seen those shows like about lottery winners, when I
haven't, but sure.
I mean, it's incredible. Like, almost to a person, those who win the lottery 3 years later have spent all of the money. I mean, it's insane. It's insane. And they do it a lot of different ways. Like, some will have a trailer house and they will have every color Lamborghini for the days of the week. I mean, it's just, it's just weird. And it's really, so I tend to like when certain clients, certain backgrounds are a little bit more conservative with how they roll it, and where you sort of protect yourself from yourself. By the way, lawyers know how to spend money too. I mean, they really know how to spend. Lawyers you can have a really good lawyer who's a really terrible business person. I have a lot of lawyer buddies that, if they ran into that kind of settlement or lottery or whatever, I think that they should definitely do the annuity, not the cash option.
It's what you recommended to me, and it made sense. I saw what you were saying, and you're right. I have no perspective. I have no perspective. I come from humble means. I can't even imagine. And I still have a hard time imagining my settlement as it is, as it exists. I still have trouble with it. It's why I still, drive a kid.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I mean,
I've loved that. I've loved 44 miles to the gallon.
Yeah, you're the prototype of you're still working. You are conservative. I mean, it's everything that I would hope.
I think I've stumbled upon some investment opportunities.
Good.
And we'll see how that goes. But it's nowhere near close to like the whole sum or anything.
Right.
It's a small portion, and could yield pretty good returns.
And then the last part of all of these, almost all of these cases, in your case too, it's the medical expenses. And I was looking at your case, which is better than the average. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to give numbers, no. But from the gross medicals down to the negotiated or reduced medicals, the gross medicals were over 3 times as high as what they were negotiated down to and paid back. And so, a lot of this is what I always tell clients. There's a lot of attorneys out there that will just send 10% or 20% reduction requests because their attorneys aren't being paid on what they save clients. They're being paid on what they obtain for clients. Mm. But we put a lot of emphasis on what we reduce for our clients. I don't care that you don't make money as a firm on it. What you get, I think, when you see that settlement statement is you get happy clients. Because they know that you fought. I mean, now, I have to tell you, I probably would have told you too, hey, give me some time to work on this after we get it resolved because it's going to be a fight.
Hard. It was hard to give you the time.
It's hard. It's hard. But
it was hard giving you all the time. I mean, I wanted to bug you all the time, but I didn't. One of the things that I knew going into this was that you had to have the time to do what it is you're going to do, whatever that is.
That's right, because.
And I did not know.
Yeah, and it's not something that we would tell in explicit terms, but if everybody had my cell phone and could have access to me every single minute of every single day, I would never be able to get anything done. And which is why you have to have a team around you. But if there's a problem, obviously I'm going to get on the phone and we met in person a number of times throughout your case as well.
Oh, yeah. Once I got a little more mobile, you would summon me and give me an update, or you would call me, or you would call me when the unnamed insurance company.
We have a
you were fighting mad that day, Jason. I
was fighting mad because they were trying to blame it on you.
Man, you were calling to get permission to drop $10,000 on the deposition because this ain't gonna fly. You are mad.
I was so mad.
And I'm
so we're on.
Go get them. Get them. I don't know what the hell you're saying, but just go get them, Jason.
Yeah. So we are under a confidentiality agreement, so we can say certain things and then certain things we can't say. But one thing I can say is they sent us a preservation letter for the vehicle, and it got into this whole mess. And essentially, it was let's blame the victim. We had investigating officers. This was an easy liability case right up until it wasn't, and that makes me mad when there's no. It irritates me.
What I was represented, what you represented to me, or what I was able to understand, or my impression of this is, they misrepresented themselves and lured us along, and we were coming up on the deadline, and they played their little 1-2 right cross.
And there was a policy issue. So then another
And they're
thing,
talking about out of state.
Well,
why is it something about they questioned something about the accident and the ruling because of something about the impact. If it was I can't remember.
Well, yeah. So they tried to blame it on you, and then the second thing they did. So there's usually more than one policy. The trick is to find them, and in this one we actually had 4, but they didn't tell us about one that was significant. And so, but once we we write our demands in a very careful way that says policy limits plural. And they tried to say that, well, no, you offered to settle for the policy's limit. Well, that's not what the demand says. The demand said policy limits. And then they had to disclose, because we make them do affidavits and all sorts of sworn statements. And then they had to go, well, there is actually another policy. And I was like, oh, okay, well, isn't this interesting? And so then they essentially tried to say, you offered and we accepted, we have a deal. I'm like, no, we didn't. Look at the words. And ultimately we had to go win that issue too. It's just, a lot of times I think if insurance companies in general would just do the right thing to begin with, which they never do, right. But if they would, it would it would make things so much easier. And there would be times when, I'm not needed, but it just very, very, very rarely happens. But I appreciate your positivity through the process. Mm. You're one of the, and we have a lot of positive clients, but you're in that boat. You were positive, always looking at the glass half full. Once in a while, you'll get a client that's different, and you just have to adapt. And sometimes, like a lot of the business cards for attorneys will say attorneys and counselors. Part of it, the job is counseling. I mean, it really is. But you're a super positive guy, and I'm grateful for that, because in a bigger case, when you have some positivity, it makes the job a lot easier.
Well, yeah. And one of the reasons that I was able to maintain my positiveness regarding the case and my lawyer was that in the very beginning, when you were at the house, it became clear to me that it's like we were going to enter a partnership, and we were successful in our partnership. I couldn't have done it without you. And I don't think you're allowed to do it without clients. So it works. But that was the main attribute as far as the confidence and so forth. There were some other times it was real nail-biting kind of thing, and it's mainly because I don't know. And that's part of the faith and the trust that comes in. And I can't tell anybody how I've decided to do, it's not going to make any sense to anybody, but for me. But I know with all certainty that it could not have happened any other way. I don't really know what that means, except it couldn't have happened any other way. And I couldn't have picked a better person to represent me. I couldn't have picked a better partner, and I couldn't have picked a better outcome. Couldn't have picked a better doctor. Couldn't have picked better therapy. Michelle, she's something else.
She's great.
She helped me with the bad injury until I was able to get the correction. And then she got me up and going.
Yeah.
But I worked with her before, in the previous. So I already knew the exercises we'd be doing. In fact, the other repair was so bad that I had not had any mobility. I forget what that's called, but my loss of mobility, it was gone. And so she brought that back. So after repair surgery, and then the things got corrected and are in line correctly again, I already knew her or what she was going to have me do. I started doing it on my own. So by the time that I actually bear weight to go to physical therapy, I was so far ahead. But it was with her, but it was because of her. I sort of got ahead of the curve with her.
Yeah, she's great.
She's brilliant. Brilliant.
Thanks for coming.
Sure.
Thanks for coming and doing this. Anything else you want to get off your chest?
No. I'm afraid, sir, I've said too much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed the episode. We'll see you next time.